Happy Tuesday morning and welcome to Mindful Movement with AARP Alabama. I am your host, Margie Curry, and today's session today is again with our certified yoga instructor, Becca Impello, who's been teaching and practicing yoga a long time, more than 20 years. Now, we want to remind you that AARP empowers people to choose how they live as they age. AARP is a nonpartisan 501c4 organization that has over 420,000 members in Alabama. AARP's role is to advocate for those 50 plus and their families. AARP continues to be committed to offering opportunities for people to stay engaged from their homes. The Mindful Movement series provides an opportunity to keep moving in the safety of your own home. Good morning, Becca. How are you today?
Good morning, Margie. I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing well today. Good to see you today. What do you have for us today?
Well, Margie, it's springtime. We've got some nice spring rain coming down here locally in Birmingham this morning. But with springtime comes the desire to get out in the garden. In fact, we're just talking, weren't we, about things that we want to plant this year in our
Right.
garden and stuff. So, I sometimes like to teach a little class that's focused on loosening up the body and helping us be able to get down to the ground, to bend over, to squat. Now, everybody's got their own sort of ways that they, get themselves to the floor. Some of us may have limitations that just mean we can't squat all the way down, or we can't bend all the way down. So within this class, within what I'm going to teach today, there's going to be lots of options for you to take that fit where you are. But we're going to loosen up the hips and the back and sort of just prepare the body for working in the garden.
Well, that sounds very good, because I'm ready too to get out in the garden.
Okay.
And folks, please remember that before you begin any exercise routine, that you should consult with your physician to be sure it's safe for you to participate. It's been a long time since we've been outside, so we're ready to get moving and get outside. Okay, Becca, take it away.
All right, very good. So we're definitely going to use our chair today. So we'll start seated in the chair, but then when we stand up, we're going to use this chair in different ways to help just make sure we stay balanced, to give us some support and to, help us make some of those movements to loosen up through the hips and the low back. Because these, joints, the hip joints, the pelvis, the lower back, the backs of the legs, these are all the areas of the body that we need a bit of mobility and strength in to be able to do any bending over or getting down close to the ground, right? And I may throw out a few tips in there as well about other ways that you can get close to the ground. You don't always have to be squatting or bending over. You can certainly get down on the ground and sit or kneel or be on hands and knees. Those are all good ways to access the earth as well, if that works better for you. So let's sit tall in our chair to start with. We're going to do just a little bit of breathing to get us sort of connected to our body and, aware. We want that mindful piece to our practice always. So I want you to sit tall, find your spine, and just lift up through the crown of the head. You can close your eyes here if you like. And just start to take a few slower, deeper breaths. And just see if you can feel your breath in your body. Feel your rib cage expand, your chest lift. Maybe you feel your belly move out and in. Now let's do a few grounding breaths, right? Help us get connected just, to the earth in a more energetic way. So sit with those feet real firm on the floor. Take the hands out to your side. Turn the palms face up. You can raise the arms all the way overhead, or you can keep your palms just right here at your side facing up. As you inhale, palms are up, maybe raising overhead. As you exhale, turn the palms down into your lap, right down to the tops of your thighs with a little press, maybe a little heaviness. Inhale, palms up, maybe with that reach up. Big full breath in, exhale slowly out. Turn the palms down or bring the hands back down to the lap, the thighs. Again, inhale and reach out and up. Exhale. 2 more. One more time. All right, now bring your awareness to your pelvis. So the area of your hips, what you're sitting on. And I want you just to begin to rock. Roll a little bit back, roll a little bit forward. So I'm rocking on that pelvis, sort of tucking under and then tilting forward. When I tilt forward, I feel a little arch in my low back. When I tilt back, I notice a little roundedness in my lower back. So this movement might need to stay a nice small movement for you, or maybe it feels comfortable to make it bigger and to even get the shoulders and the shoulder blades involved. Good. 3 more times, back and forth, rocking on that pelvis, loosening up the lower back and the hips. Good. All right, now we're going to warm up those hips a little bit more. We're going to start with a marching. So lifting one knee at a time, sitting up straight and tall, trying not to lean back for this one, right? Stay right on the top of those sitting bones. Think about those feet as being heavy, like you're wearing your heavy work boots or your rain boots, right? So that you're using a little more muscle activation to lift up. So in order to get down to the ground, you need to be able to bend pretty deeply at our hip joints, right? And be able to have that flexibility in our back and the hamstrings, the back of the leg. There's a lot to it, right? So we're going to be doing some things that strengthen, move, loosen, stretch, all of those various areas. All right, now let's take those legs up and out, up and back in, like you're picking up over something kind of big, right? There's a big rock in the way here. You got to pick your leg up and move it over and out. All right, so we're using these hip muscles at the top of the hip joint, the hip flex muscles as we do this. So we're getting them warmed up, getting that muscle a little bit more juiced up or loosened up. It also helps to strengthen that muscle, which will generally make it more flexible, give it more mobility. All right, now we're going to just leave those legs out, right? So take one out and then take the other out. So we've got legs wide, all right? So from here, let's start to fold forward and then come back up. So I'm keeping my spine nice and straight. I'm folding at these creases at the tops of the thighs, the tops of the hips. Now, everyone's going to have a different sort of, ability or capacity, let's say range, amount of movement that your body can give you in all these various positions. So remember, every time you're doing what feels right for your body, maybe I'm going further, maybe you're going further. It's all okay as long as you're listening and being mindful of that body. So for some of us, maybe coming hands towards the floor is a possibility. If that seems too far away, stay with those hands on the thighs or the knees. It's up to you. We can see how as we bend further forward with this wide stance, we're starting to get into that sort of position of a squat, right? We're starting to mobilize in that direction. Now, if you happen to use a stool or something out in the garden, this might be a position that you do some work in, right? Especially if your stool is a little lower, right? So low stool gives you some support in a squat-like position so that you can do that work in the ground. One more time. And then come on up. All right, now let's turn to the side in our chair, right? So turning sideways, you're going to let one leg, the leg in front, drop down, right? So we're going to try to drop down so that that knee points at the ground. I got my toes tucked under back here, but it's okay if you want to take your foot flat, if that works better. You could do this in shoes. It's fine. All right, so by lengthening down, we're stretching, we start opening that front hip. Give that glute a squeeze. So squeeze that buttock right there. And then take a few reaches up with that front arm and then down. Reach up. Drop down 2 more times. All right, release that. Take it slowly over to the other side. It's the same thing, but just turn the other way in the chair. So I'm kind of half on, half off the chair, right? That front knee, I get it where it can point down. Now, if yours is a little more forward, that's okay. You might be able to go even a little further back, right? So figure out how your foot's going to work here. Squeeze that glute, all right? And then when you're ready, add that reach up and down. All right, and then come back to the front. All right, bring those legs back into center. Sit tall. We're going to start loosening up the backs of the legs now. So one leg, straighten that knee and then bend it. As you straighten it, really reach out through the heel. Good. Now let's switch legs. Kick and bend, flex that foot, reach through the heel. All right, now let's go back to that first leg. Lift that foot out and circle that ankle. Loosening up our ankles is actually another place in the body that, benefits from some mobility work if we're trying to get down to the floor or to the ground, like with a squat especially. Make sure you go the other direction a few times. And then put that foot down on the ground, toes up, right? So that foot is flexed. Knee is straight. I'm going to sit tall and lean into it until I feel some stretch down the back of that leg. If you feel more secure holding on to the back of the chair, you can hold on there. All right. Now, still with that same leg stretched out, I want you to try to lift and lower it. This is, again, working on that hip flexor and improve that mobility in our hip joint. We do that. One way we do it is by improving its strength, right? So even if this is just barely coming off the floor, do the best you can. 3 more. 2. Last one. And then take a little rest and let's pause. Let's just be mindful of how that leg feels after that work, right? You're aware of having used those muscles in the front of the thigh and the hip. Maybe you're aware of having stretched those muscles in the back of the thigh. Other foot out. Lift that leg up, that foot up, and circle at the ankle. Go the other way. Good, and then put that heel down on the ground. The toes are still up, so that foot's flexed, knees straight, straight spine, lean into it. You just go until you feel some stretch there. Remember those options to hold on to the chair if you'd like. All right, and then sitting back up tall, keep that leg straight, lift and lower. All right, so you're lifting however high you can lift. Maybe that's just an inch or so off the ground. Maybe you can get it way up, higher than the chair, perhaps. No heroics, though. Remember, this is not a competition. No one's watching you, right? So no one really knows. You be true to yourself. Do what you feel is really the right place for you to be working. Last 3, 2, and 1. All right. Now we're going to do one more thing in the chair seated, and then we're going to do some things standing. So this one's going to be back to our wide stance, our feet out wide, our knees open. All right. And so what I want you to do here, you may need to hold on to the chair. You're going to try and lift one leg at a time. Again, maybe it's just a barely off the floor kind of lift. Again, this is helping us work that mobility and that angle of the hip joint. that we get into with any kind of squat. Now, even if you're thinking, I'm not a gardener, I'm not getting out in the yard, or those days are, done for me, I'm not doing that. These motions, this mobility is still very useful and helpful for just daily life, right? Just having more mobility in your hips is a really good thing for all sorts of daily activities. All right, let's just rock those knees in and out a few times, loosen that up. All right, now we'll come on into standing. All right, now I mentioned that we're going to use the chair for a good bit of our standing stuff, not just for balance, but also just for some stability and support. So the very first thing I want us to just try, and everyone's is going to look different, right, is we're going to just try exploring what it feels like to do some sort of squat. So I've got my hands on the chair, my feet out a little wide, toes turned out a little bit. These are options that you can take, wider, more turned out, less wide, to accommodate your particular bone structure and joint mobility. So I've got that chair to hold on to, and I'm just gonna experiment with dropping into that. Now, if you've got some knee issues and you don't need to do too many of these, or you don't need to go too far, that's okay. You don't have to. You can just, do one or two, check it out, and then, stop. Okay, let's just do two more, just trying out that squat, seeing how it feels. If you are getting out in the garden and squatting, I do highly recommend that you have some sort of bench, bucket, it could be almost anything in the yard that you can sit on in that squat. All right, now let's step the feet in and go ahead and take one leg forward and one leg back. We'll start by stretching that ankle in the back. So push that heel down and lean forward, really lean into the chair. You can even just lay your chest down on the chair if you wanted to. But push back into that heel. Good. All right, and then straighten that front knee and fold over that leg until you feel a stretch in that hamstring. So stretching in the back of that front leg. A few breaths there. Again, just using the chair for some support, holding on. All right, now coming up with that chest up, I want you to round your back. So I'm just draping over the chair and then coming up tall. You could shorten your stance a little bit if it feels like you'd have more mobility. So I'm rounding and then rolling up tall. Two more, rounding, rolling up tall. Now, maybe you've got some reasons that it's not healthy for you to round your back in this position. You can skip. All right, step in. Let's take the other leg back. So we got this split stance, bending that front knee, pushing into that back heel, and then just leaning forward. All right, so I'm pushing back at the same time that I'm shifting weight forward to put that stretch on the calf muscle. Good. And come up, straighten that front knee, and lean in with a straight spine this time over that front leg. If you're going to choose not to do the rounded spine, you could repeat this one or stay in this one a little longer. Good. And then coming more up, try taking it rounded over that front leg, and then back up, rounded, and up. Two more. All right, good. Now we're going to do some things to loosen up the hips. It'll involve standing on one leg, so feel free to hold on unless you're just feeling, frisky today and you want to challenge your balance at the same time. All right, so stand on one leg, pick the other knee up, and we're going to try and just circle that leg around. We're trying to help our hip loosen up, right? So I'm trying not to move my upper body very much. I'm just trying to bring that knee up as high as I can, out as far as I can, and then try to swing it around behind and back to the front. All right, 2 more in this direction. And then same leg, but go in reverse. Bring it back, around, and up in front. Back, around, and up in front. 2 more of those. Right, and then we'll switch legs. You can turn yourself around if you'd like. Take that other leg, circle it around. See if you notice any differences between your 2 hips. Maybe one moves more easily. Maybe one has a few more cracks and pops in it. Two more, going front, around, and back. And then try to reverse direction. Go back, around and up, back, around and up. You're making the biggest movement you can make, whatever that looks like. 2 more. Last one. Good. And just use the back of the chair, the tall part of the chair, and walk back, stretch back. You can let your knees soften so you can push those hips back a little further. Let the belly and the spine fold a little deeper. All right, coming back in. Now, for this next couple, you may have some reservations about putting your foot in the chair. Do make sure that you can hold on. So this is where we're going. Putting one foot in the chair. I've got my hand here. If this is something that doesn't feel right for you, you can do this with your foot on the ground. Okay, it'll just be a little less deep. If you had something else to put your foot on, a yoga block, for instance, I happen to have some of those in my space, or a stool or a sturdy box, that's something also that you could experiment with, right? So I'm going to hold on, put one foot in the chair, or one foot on the floor in front. So we're deepening that hip crease, and I'm just helping to loosen up that side of the pelvis, that hip and low back. And so I'm just coming in and out of that. I'm getting a little bit of a stretch on the standing leg as well, so that's a dual purpose. All right, now, wherever position you're in with that one leg forward, maybe it's on the floor, maybe it's on a box, maybe it's up here in your chair, and then we try and lift and lower. Lift again. You can keep holding on. If you feel like you're able to challenge your balance and let go, you can try that. Last 3, 2, 1. All right. Just do a little walk in place or a little shake out of the legs. I'm going to walk to the other side of my chair. So again, your choices: foot in the chair, maybe foot on the ground, foot up on a block or a box or stool or something that brings it up a little high, but maybe not as high as the chair. All right, and then we do essentially a little lunging in and out of that leg to help loosen up both hips. It's also working those knees and ankles a bit. All right. And then wherever that foot is, stand tall, try and lift and lower it. Lift and lower. Good, 2 more. All right, and down. Now, last thing that we're going to do here, standing up with the chair, is get where you can face the seat of your chair, right? So take the feet out wide, a nice wide stance. Fold forward and just have those hands in the chair. And then do some side to side. Again, this is just all about loosening up into those hips, legs, and low back. Being able to bend at the knees, at the hips, at the ankles. Having that flexibility in the backs of the legs, the insides of the legs especially. So side to side a bit. Feel free to slow it down and maybe stay on one side for a breath or two if you want. If you feel a good stretch there. Good. Then right here in the middle, I want you to see about rounding your back, flattening your back. Right? So push into the chair, tuck the tail, get round, and then try to flatten the back. I let my knees bend at that part because I'll get a little more movement in my pelvis if I have my knees a little softer. Good, and then let's try folding down, maybe dropping down to your elbows, maybe dropping down with your head on the chair. So these are all different options. Maybe some of you've got the flexibility to actually drop down hands to the ground in this position. Or maybe even once your hands are on the ground, some of you can bend your elbows. So whatever level you're at doesn't matter, right? There's no prize for going further, right? You're listening to your body to see what's the right position for you, what's giving you some stretch and challenge, but, not overdoing it. All right, now last thing, this is optional. You can stay with that forward fold stretch if you want to. I'm going to turn my toes just a little more out, and I'm going to practice my squat again. I got this chair to help me get back up. You can adjust those feet. Again, I'm a big fan of sitting on something when you're squatting, right? We don't have to just hover. So if you're using these techniques and you're getting out in your garden, maybe you're sitting on a crate or a bucket. Also, you might decide getting out in the garden means it's better for you to get on your hands and knees. All right, let's bring it all the way up. Walk those feet together. Come up tall. Now, maybe that last squatting there felt a little bit better or looser than the first one we did when we stood up behind the chair, because we did plenty of loosening up or getting things prepped for that position in between those two trials. So that's just something maybe you observe. Let's just come to a seat now in the chair to sort of wind this down for our last minute or so. Take a moment to close your eyes. Feel your body. Breathe. And I just want to say that maybe if you're someone that really hasn't, tried any of those moves in a while, haven't tried to really squat down or haven't tried to lift your leg up that high, like to be on the chair. And I want to encourage you to not to be discouraged if you found those things challenging. You found them challenging because you haven't done them in a while. Anything that we haven't done in a while is going to be harder for us to do, right? It's partly just a factor of our nervous system and how it, deals with new things, and certainly it's a factor of just what your body's used to, what its kind of capabilities are. But our capacity is always got potential to change, to expand, right? So if some of those things were a little tricky for you today, maybe continuing to work with them they'll get better more than likely, and you'll get closer to maybe that goal of working in the garden if that indeed is something that you'd like to do. But I encourage you to just see how you feel for the rest of the day. If you did some of these squatting motions, you might have a little soreness in some of the muscles around the hips, or the legs. That's probably an okay thing. It just means that you challenged part of your body to do something that it hadn't done, and it's going to have a little residual temporary soreness from it. But if you keep it up, that will get better. Let's finish with a couple of grounding breaths again. Palms up, palms down, or the arms can raise 3 times. Big breath in. Exhale. Palms back down to the lap. Again, a little slower even. One more time. And then bring those hands together at the heart. You can bow the head just with some gratitude to your own body and, whatever it gave you today, right? We want to be thankful for our body and our ability to move. And of course, I always like to extend some gratitude to AARP of Alabama for giving us these opportunities to move mindfully together on Tuesday mornings. We'll hope you continue to join us here on Tuesdays at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Becca. Great way to start working in the garden for the summer. I hope everyone has a great week and a good holiday coming up. Have a fantastic time. Thank you, Becca. Bye.
Bye.